Hey everybody, welcome back to my little vlog where I've been sort of retelling my life story. Right off the bat, I just wanted to mention for anyone who watches this who may wonder why my style is not at a premium right now. This ugly hat that I'm wearing is I'm wearing for the reason that I've been growing my hair out again, and it's kind of in a strange place right now and a strange length, and it just more comfortable to keep it out of the way than try to deal with it. So there you go. The last time I talked, I was explaining how during my 10th grade year, my folks decided that we were going to move again, and we were moving to Georgia, which was pretty far off from any place I had ever been. And the reason is that my father's brother had just developed a new company and was hiring on my father to be, I believe, sort of like a lead salesman. And it was just a brand new company that was getting started. So uh, there was a lot of excitement about the prospects from my parents' side, anyway. Although I wasn't real happy about the move because all my friends that I'd known for quite a number of years at that point were there in Kansas, so I wasn't real thrilled about it. But my parents let me stay behind and live with my cousin and finish out my 10th grade year while they went ahead and moved and got everything settled. So I was grateful for that. And it was an odd time. I was living with a cousin who he's from a broken home, and ironically enough, his father is the brother I'm referring to that my dad was going to work for. So there was kind of some underlying tension in the whole event because his my cousin's mother, I believe she was pretty bitter still about the whole thing. So she welcomed me in, but I always felt like I was kind of intruding. And there was a couple of events that happened during that time that kind of created a root problem that affected my relationship with this cousin. At the time, I didn't know, but it was going to affect it for the rest of our lives. I haven't kept up with him, and he hasn't kept up with me in many, many, many years. So I don't know where he's at, and I've always regretted that. But those are the shakes sometimes when you're an adult, or when you're growing into adulthood. At any rate, after that, the summer prior to my junior year, I finished up school and moved out to Georgia with my folks, my family, and it was a beautiful place. I remember it was just very green, lush, and just rolling hills, and our house was really nice. So it seemed nice at first, and I got to, we were playing around with some of the neighborhood kids, and so everything was fine for the most part, until something happened with a neighborhood girl and myself. I can't remember what it was, but there was I think she was picking on one of my brothers, and I kind of overreacted, and in kind of pulling her off and moving her aside, she kind of fell, and little did I know she had an older brother who was going to return me to the era of bullying. So later on, I don't remember if it was that day or a couple days later, this kid showed up at the house and was looking for me, and proceeded to tell my mother that what he was going to do to me. And I was, of course, at the time, I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I was petrified, and he let me know, because he obviously was going to go to the same school I was going to be going to, the high school, that even though he wouldn't be able to deal with me at that time, that eventually he would get me. And of course, because of my past issues with bullying, that I didn't deal with that well at all, and it just petrified me, and I was just, you know, complained all the time about why we had to be there and everything, and it was tough on my mom. I know my mom and I seemed like we were pretty close at that time. I wasn't very close with my father still at that point, so there were some conflicts that started to arise, and between my mother and my father, uh, perhaps unbeknownst to him, I don't know, but I was aware of them. And there were some conflicts that I started noticing between my father and his brother, um, particularly revolving around his brother's wife at that time. I don't know the extent of what happened. I think I've been told stories since, but it doesn't really matter at this point. But it led to one sort of blow up event where my father had it and sort of took me, because I was working. I actually got a summer job working there too. He found me some work to do, kind of in the warehouse. I just remember one day he just up and got me and says, "We're gone. We're out of here." And I don't remember what all led up to that, but it was very explosive. And so it wasn't long before I got the news that we were moving yet again. This time, though, we were moving to a town in Texas where I had originally spent some of my earlier years in. So I was pretty excited about that. I thought there are definitely some people there that I know, friends that I could return to. So that prospect didn't seem real terrible at that time. Little did I know later that people grow up and change, and most of the friends that I knew from prior years had all sort of grown up and changed considerably, whether or not they were drinking a lot at that point or doing drugs or just had far different interests than I did. But I found that out rather quickly. So when we moved there, though, we were dirt poor, and so we lived with another of my father's brothers who was living there. It was Tyler, Texas, is where this was. And so we were basically sort of living on the floor, and I think we were waiting on some property to open up, or a house that we were going to move into. And little I didn't know at that point, but that the house was in a section or an area where it didn't involve the school that I was kind of hoping to go to, that sort of housed a lot of my older friends. It was kind of so here I am going to a brand new school yet again, and I'm still a little bit psychologically messed up and just not very good socially. So, and this was a small school, and right away I felt extremely alienated. Of course, I'm alienated myself for the most part, looking back on it, but I didn't help the situation at all, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. So I went to my mother, and we had a lot of discussions about it, and to her credit, she found a way for me to go to the high school where a lot of my friends were at this point, in Tyler, and I think they had to pay a little bit for me to do that because it was out of the district. At that point, I didn't care, but I feel for the situation now. But so she was definitely willing to. I think she had some understanding of what I was going through, so that was helpful. But this move to this school was good in two ways. The one I already discussed. There was a number of people that I knew that I had grown up in my grade school years of about first grade to fifth grade. So I had sort of a built-in established set of friends that I could kind of rely on, or at least go to as a jumping off point. The other thing was this school was huge. My graduating class alone was over 500 people. So it was a school you could quite literally just jump into as a new student and nobody would ever know the difference. Um, I could slip in and slip out. Nobody really knew. Although I did make friends here and there, and I'll get into that story more later as I start my junior year. But it was incredible because I could keep myself pretty much undercover, and I didn't have to deal with looking like the new kid and going through all that hassle. So that's a little side trip. It was a very eventful period, and it kind of led up to yet another big change was finishing out my junior and senior years at this high school in Tyler, Texas. And I'll get into that more next time, and that will lead me up to my graduation, wherein I'll definitely ready to get into what happens after graduation, because it was pretty exciting, good times. So, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoy hearing these stories, and definitely like the video if you enjoy it. So, I will see you soon. Bye.